Herman is perfect, and we have one domino down. First pitch is next, guys. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 37 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pyatt, and with me, as always, the four-seam fastball co-host, Will Sism. Will, we survived the storms. How you doing, man?
Yeah, we did. They were intense for sure, but we are here and ready to roll.
Dude, it's going to be great. It was a very fun week of baseball, as always. I feel like every day we hop on here, once a week. I guess that plays to that. We have plenty of stuff to talk about. So we better dive in, man. Let's get rolling with where do we stand. And, of course, if you're new, this is our segment where we look at the standings and kind of take a glimpse at where the league is. I was actually talking to somebody at work as the thunder rolls. Talking to somebody at work, he's like, I'm not a baseball diehard. I just look at the standings about once a month. And I'm like, dude, do we have the spot for you? After we hit that, we're going to do a little Heat Check Player of the Week where we talk about our All-Stars, some fun topics with what's on the grill with Will, and then studs and duds. We made it to the starting pitching, and then we will end with our Roman Candle Player of the Week. Will is officially up 6-1. Let's see if I'm going to turn this franchise around. Will it ever happen? We're going to reach a point, Will, where we're going to run out of weeks, man. We're going to crown you the champion in like August, okay? I don't know how I feel about that.
What's my magic number?
Yeah, we got to figure it out. It definitely exists. Like, you have one. I'm going to do a little math. I'll get back to you next week, okay? Let's start in the American League East where Tampa Bay, just cruising. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now, 57-28. Baltimore right behind them at 48-32, 6.5 games back. The Yankees 10 games back at 5th place at 45-36. Toronto 11 games back, and Boston 15 games back. Yikes, they've been playing pretty tough. In the Central, we have a new leader in the Minnesota Twins. Will called this a long time ago, and let's just see if they no, excuse me. I'm so wrong. The Guardians actually were in first, but they have flip-flopped once again. I was on the Twins.
Yep.
Oh, man, never mind.
We're neck and neck.
Neck and neck, dude. Here we go. So you got Minnesota a game up, but they're a game under 500 at 41-42. Cleveland 1 game back at 39-42. And then you have Detroit, White Sox, and Kansas City also playing baseball in the same division. Detroit and the White Sox are kind of close. They're 5 games and 5.5 games. I should give them a little bit more love. Definitely striking distance for sure. Of course, not Kansas City. Kansas City striking
Correct.
Distance for that first overall pick. In the West, and we're going to talk about them more later, the Texas Rangers might have made a pretty big move. You got Houston at 45-37, 4 games back of Texas. L.A. still hanging out in 3rd place, 44-40, 6 games back. Seattle, will they ever go at 38-42? And then the answer is no. Oakland will never go. They'll actually go to Las Vegas here in a couple of years. They're still in last place. Takeaways from the American League this week.
Yeah, the starting in the East, the Rays have actually played really good baseball the last few days. The bats are starting to get cranked up again, and they're starting to create a little bit of separation with Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore had gotten it down to about 4 games, and now it's back up to 6 or 6.5. So, I will say, as much as it pains me to say it, the Yankees just kind of hanging in there without some of their best players, honestly, kind of impressive to me. Obviously, without Judge for a while, Rodon hasn't thrown a real pitch yet for the team.
Yep.
He should be on the way, but we'll see how that goes once he gets up. But yeah, I have to say I'm kind of impressed with the Yankees. I know they're not in first or second, but they're hanging in there. They haven't really lost major ground. And I don't know, like, I think even the most avid of Yankees fan would probably say the division's probably a stretch at this point. But you know what? If they can get into the playoffs and Judge is back by that time, Rodon's cranked up, and they don't lose any more key pieces, that's a scary team. So, we'll see what happens. So that's kind of my real overall takeaways in the East. The Central is really a mess. Just a bunch of average at best teams.
Yeah.
You know,
Probably my
and
least favorite division to watch.
it really is. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if the White Sox somehow, some way, like had a run in them. Luis Robert's been playing really well lately. Jimenez is back healthy, so we'll see. And then out west, it's kind of really more of the same. We've talked a lot about the Rangers this year, and rightfully so. They're still pretty comfortably on top. You mentioned they've made a big move. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Let's hit it now, dude. Why not?
Yeah, let's do it. And you know what? I think they're the best team in the West. I really do.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt. So what we are referring to is, of course, we've been talking about this for a long time. I think in March.
Yeah.
Opening day was the 31st. And, no, Rangers get Aroldis Chapman. And Will was on this from day one, that this is a guy who, obviously didn't leave the Yankees in the best of fashions, okay? They were in a playoff run, didn't make the ALDS roster, it was the DS. Yeah, He stayed in Miami, didn't even travel to the series with the team. And it was kind of like writing on the wall. This guy's out of here. Signs a deal with the Royals. And I think everybody knew that if this guy performs, he's going to be one of the top pitching options at the deadline. A deadline that we have talked about being pretty poor in the fashion of arms on the market in general, just because there are so many teams still vying for those wild card spots. So the Texas Rangers, a team, seated in the top spot at the West, okay, make a big move for Aroldis Chapman to shore up that bullpen. They trade him. They get him for a couple of prospects. Cole Ragans, he's a 25-year-old starting pitcher. And then Ronnie Cabrera, he's 17 years old. Cole has had some experience in the major leagues, just a couple of starts. Nothing spectacular, but I think, maybe he could turn into something for the Royals, somebody to keep an eye on. And, of course, when you're 17, who knows? We'll see in, 2028 who wins this trade. But for right now, what a move for the Rangers. They have Will Smith holding it down in the back, but could this be an eighth-inning guy? I don't know. What are your initial takeaways from this deal?
Yeah, I love the move. I think the Rangers are going to be super aggressive. This is the first time they've been in this position in a while, and I think they're looking to capitalize on it. So kudos to the Rangers. I think aggressive usually wins these things, and they're not too worried about what happens 5-10 years from now with some of these prospects. So they're gonna go for it. So. As far as the Chapman move, though, I love it. I think it's a great move for the Rangers. It gives them another weapon, so to speak, in that pen, especially from the left side, which teams are always looking for. Chapman, if he's healthy, he's still very effective. He may not throw 104 anymore, but he still can hit triple digits. He's got a nasty slider when it's rolling. And, worst case scenario, if he's healthy, he's a left-handed hitter's nightmare.
Right.
So this is a big move by the Rangers. Helps solidify kind of the back end of that pen, as you mentioned, with Will Smith. There's been a couple other guys that have pitched pretty well out of the pen, but that's definitely a spot that they needed to address, and they've definitely started off with a good move here.
Yep. Rangers 24th in bullpen ERA, so this is a move that helps that. Chapman's come out, and his ERA is 2.45. So super helpful. Still walking quite a few people. He's walked 20 batters. 53 strikeouts, though, in 29 innings. So
yep.
Fantasy-wise, do you think about picking him up? How secure do you feel about Will Smith in that closer role?
I've got to believe that, Bruce Bochy, he's kind of a mastermind when it comes to handling pitching in general, especially the bullpen. If this is just my opinion, I think you leave Will Smith in that role as long as he continues to perform. I don't think you really need to mess with that. And I think that, Chapman can either be their eighth inning guy to set him up, or if he wants to go more matchup oriented, with certain matchups and certain innings, he can absolutely do it. So,
right.
think of Chapman as being kind of your high leverage guy before you get to the ninth inning for this particular team, the way it's constructed. But let's not lose sight of this too. There's not too many, other than Will Smith, there's not too many Rangers, especially pitching, in that bullpen especially, that have a ton of postseason experience. So, looking kind of, assuming that the wheels don't fall off and assuming they make it to the postseason, I think it's a big deal that they have a guy like Will Smith who has plenty of postseason experience, and now Chapman who has a ton of postseason experience, because you try to stick a young guy trying to get out in the 8th and ninth inning in the postseason against Tampa. Hey, that's a big deal. So I think from an experience standpoint, I just really like the move. I think this is a really, really, really big one that we're going to look back on, that as long as he stays healthy, it's going to be a really good move for the Rangers.
Yeah, good for them, keeping their foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Let's move on to that National League there, Will, where, speaking of foot on the gas pedal, man, the Atlanta Braves are playing some excellent ball right now. 54-27. They are 7 games up on Miami, who's also playing a very inspired baseball, 48-35. Philly, 43-38. They're 11 games back. And then you got the Mets. Listen to this, 36-46. They are 18.5 games back first place, and they're 10 games back of a wild card spot. Man, oh man, what is happening in New York? And then you got Washington in last place. Prospects are getting run there. In the Central, America's team, the Cincinnati Reds, 1 game up on Milwaukee at 44-38. Milwaukee is 43-39. They are in a series right now with the Pittsburgh Pirates that are 4.5 games back. And then you got the Cubs, half game back of them. So they're 5 games back. St. Louis, another what is going on kind of moment here at 33-47. They're 10 games back. And then in the West, this just keeps getting tighter and tighter here. You got Arizona still holding down first place, 49-34. 2 games back of them, the Dodgers at 46-35. And then you got San Fran, 46-36. They're 2.5 games back of first, half game back of the Dodgers. San Diego and Colorado, still waiting on San Diego to go. We might keep waiting, man. They are 11.5 games back of first and 9 games back of a wild card. It's getting late early. 2-8 in their last 10. They're on a 6-game losing streak. The San Diego Padres, ladies and gentlemen. What do you got, Will?
Man, the Braves are an absolute juggernaut. It's I've watched some of their games this week, and I mean, it's like kind of what we talked about a week or a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you literally have to score 5, 6, 7 runs most games if you want to have a shot to beat them.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do, even without Max Fried. I mean, that pitching staff's been solid. That bullpen's really good again. But, man, that lineup is unbelievable, especially now that Harris is starting to get going out of that 9 spot. I mean, there's just no easy out whatsoever. So Braves are impressive. Marlins are impressive. I am so impressed with what Miami's doing. As messed up as some of these National League teams are, why can't they hold on? I mean, I don't really see a run in the Mets or even San Diego at this point. Those 2 teams are an absolute mess right now. So kudos to Miami. I hope that they kind of hang in there. I'd like to see some of that young pitching get a shot in the postseason. In the Central, I really think I know I was joking about the Brewers getting swept by the A's, but I really think it's going to be Brewers or Reds. I think that the Brewers' chance is if Brandon Woodruff comes back sometime, within a couple of weeks of the All-Star break, once they get back going. If he can come back and he's healthy, and if Corbin Burns kind of figures some things out and starts pitching the way he's capable of, that bullpen's still really, really good with Devin Williams locking it down in the 9th. I think the Brewers and the Reds are the 2 – I really think that they're the 2 best teams in the Central at this point. My big question is, are the Cardinals going to be sellers? This is probably a topic for another day, but what are the Cardinals going to do? Well, that's something that we'll probably spend a lot of time on in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
And then out west, the West is fun, man. The Giants, I say I don't give them enough respect, but all they do is just continue to win series.
Oh, man.
Arizona's not going anywhere. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to be there. It'll be interesting to see what the Dodgers do at the deadline as well. I fully expect them to be an aggressive team.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, the Padres, I'm starting to lose faith. Like, I don't know if they're going to – I don't know that this team's got a run in it. I really don't. I was watching this series currently with the Reds, and yesterday's game, they had every chance in the world to win that game.
Yeah.
And the Reds kept coming back in extra innings and ended up walking it off. I think it was Spencer Steer hit a 2-run bomb to win it. But it's almost like two opposite teams. Like the Reds are on an upward trajectory with all of these young guys that are so excited, and it's so infectious. You can just watch the Reds and see the youthful enthusiasm. And the Padres are the exact opposite. It's a bunch of high-paid guys that aren't performing in the clutch, that are being super inconsistent, just not playing winning baseball.
Yeah.
My panic meter, I know that I don't think we're doing this segment today, but my panic meter for the Padres is about as high as it gets right now. And the Mets are beyond the panic meter at this point.
Yeah, dude. Well, man, I think back to San Diego when they signed Bogarts and they had that big, I don't know if you call it a parade. I don't know what it was, but they had them all sitting up on stage in their jerseys, and Tatis, Machado, Soto, and then Bogarts, and it just hasn't clicked.
It hasn't worked.
You can't win with four great players. Even if they're all rolling, you still got to have bullpen. Obviously, rotation, they're still kind of piecing together.
The problem is those guys just really haven't been good. We've talked about Machado's struggles this year a lot. Bogarts has been very average.
Yeah.
Soto's been much better lately, but he's been inconsistent. And Tatis has been inconsistent. There's some games where he looks incredible, and then there's other games to where it's like, what's he doing?
Dude.
So they're a mess.
176 in his last 7.
Yeah.
Batting average. He's not seeing the ball well right now. Tell you who is seeing the ball pretty well right now is some of our heat check player of the week. Let's hit the sizzle there, Will.
Reminds me of bacon. I love it.
Bacon, dude, that's all it was. Is I put some bacon on the griddle and then put the mic up next to it.
I love it.
If we could get the smell too,
yes,
this would be the number one podcast in the world. If that would play
right.
And you'd smell bacon. Okay, tell me about your guy, dude.
So I thought about a couple of different guys this week because there's several really good performers, but I wanted to give a shout out to this guy. Plays for the Nationals. The Nats obviously aren't contenders this year, but I tell you what, the Nationals, I feel like when I watch them play, they're a really good young baseball team. They're not ready to win right now, especially in the NL East, as good as the division is. But you know what? I wanted to give a shout out to Lane Thomas. I feel like we're witnessing kind of a breakout season with this guy. He's actually one of the league leaders in batting average in the National League. He's hitting right around 300. But for this week specifically, he was 8 for 21, hit a home run, 6-run score, 6 RBIs out of the leadoff spot in that lineup. So I picked him up several weeks ago in one of our leagues, and I can't keep him out of the lineup. Like he's solid. So hits for power, steals a few bases. He's not going anywhere out of the top of that lineup. So shout out to Lane Thomas and some of those Nats. They're playing hard. Obviously, it's an uphill climb this year, but they've got. If you're a Nats fan, give them about 2 years, and I feel like help is on the way. Yep,
I like that, dude. No, he's pretty solid. I drafted him late in a couple leagues, and just knowing that the peripheral stuff is there, and it has paid off some pretty nice dividends.
He's a really nice player.
Yep. I just hope he can keep it up because you don't hear about him because he plays for Washington. But I mean, picture this guy in a big market city.
Yeah.
I think we'd hear a lot more about him. Yeah, average 302, 14 home runs, 43 RBIs. That is pretty solid.
It's pretty good.
No doubt at the halfway mark. By the way, that's where we are. We are at the halfway mark. I couldn't believe that when I heard that. Because we were just doing quarter pole. I was just making jokes about quarter pole. It makes me wonder if I was right on my math. Anyway, I'll tell you one person who was right on the other night. Domingo Herman for the New York Yankees threw a perfect game, okay? 24th perfect game in AL/NL history. Now, apparently I'm not allowed to say Major League Baseball history because there was a time, I guess, predating 1900 that we weren't. Let's just call it MLB history, okay?
Yeah.
24th perfect game against who else will but the Oakland Athletics. What a year for those guys. I mean, I know it's on your bingo card. It's definitely on your bingo card. If you had to pick a team to get a perfect game tossed against. 9 innings, 9 Ks, no walks, only took 99 pitches. He's the fourth Yankee to accomplish that feat. That's the most by any team. It's been a pretty wild season for this guy. Of course, a couple months ago, we're talking sticky stuff band. This guy up and down. The start before this one, he gave up 8 earned runs in 3 innings pitched, so not the picture of consistency. With this start, his stats land at 5-5 with a 4.54 ERA. 1.05 WHIP isn't terrible. What are we doing with this guy? You picking him up because he's out there?
He's interesting. I mean, he's just a guy that's going to be inconsistent. I mean, that's just kind of what he's shown over the years. He is prone to giving up some home runs. I mean, here's the thing. When he's on, he's really good. But when he's off, he's not good at all. And I think that's kind of the separator. Some of the top guys, even when they don't have their best stuff, they figure out a way to get through 5 or 6 innings and still give you they still give their chance at least. They give their teams a chance to win when they turn it over the bullpen. And I feel like kind of the guys that are middle of the road like that, when their stuff isn't there, that's when they really struggle and they're out of the game in the 3rd or 4th inning and their team has no chance because they've given up 7 runs,
Yep.
So, anyways, it's tough. I mean, he's, in my opinion, he's kind of a matchup guy. If you feel good about the matchup, then start him. If you don't, leave him on the bench. So that's just kind of what he is. He's just inconsistent. That's what he's been.
Mm-hmm. Deep leagues, I would say give him a shot. I guess here's the thing. He pounds the strike zone, doesn't walk hardly anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
He's tough.
Obviously, the other night was his best, but I don't think we've seen his best this season. We'll see how it goes. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other guy. He could have his own segment. We might have to make it the Shohei Ohtani extraordinary, ordinary play of the week because you can't not shout out the game he had. I believe it was on Tuesday night against the Chicago White Sox. So let me paint the picture. He was the starting pitcher, and he struck out 10 over 6.1 innings pitched. He left his start with a cracked fingernail, but throughout the game, as the 3-hole hitter for the Angels, he also had 2 home runs. So we got 2 home runs, double dong with 10 strikeouts. He left the game because he broke his fingernail and then hit the 2nd home run. We're
running out of words, man.
I'm speechless. He's unbelievable. For anybody who hasn't checked this guy out, he's going to reach a point. I think it might happen when he signs the deal with whoever he goes to play with next year. But he will be like a LeBron or like a Tom Brady, like everybody. Because, baseball, a ton of people love baseball. But when you go globally, it's kind of a select group of folks. But Shohei is, he is just above and beyond, man. It's pretty spectacular. He's going to be the first $600 million man. That's what I got on that. Hey, Will, you ready, man? We're going to do a little What's on the Grill with Will. We got some topics here. we got some good topics here. Steve Cohen had a press conference. For anybody who doesn't know who that is the owner of the Mets. He came in and said, I'm going to throw all my money, not all his money. He's worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
a good chunk of money at free agency this year. We're going to bring in a lot of people, and this is going to be a successful team. When he actually bought the team, I believe it was like 3 seasons ago at this point, he said we're going to win a World Series within 5 seasons. So I think we're on season number 3. We might be on season number 4. I should fact check that. I apologize. Let's see. Met with the media on Wednesday and spoke pretty candidly about how poorly the Mets have started their season. He did reinforce that the GM Epler and our main man Buck Showalter. Which one is it, Will?
Showalter.
Yeah, I said it. Felt weird off the. They're not losing their jobs. Okay. I don't know at some point if they should. That's just me talking, not him. But, yeah, it's been a pretty tough go so far. What do you think about are these guys selling? Where are we landing the plane here in New York?
Oh, man, this is tough. I mean, here's the deal. I mean, we're halfway through the season. And they are a long ways out. I mean, you can kiss the Braves goodbye. The division's not happening. I mean, we can pretty much, I think, all agree on that. And I think you mentioned earlier, they're about 10 games even out of the wild card.
Correct.
And that's a problem. So, God, where does this land? I don't know what you do. I mean, who do they have that's really movable? Maybe Starling Marte, somebody who's looking for kind of an aging veteran bat in the lineup.
Yeah, he hasn't performed this year, though. I mean,
right, I know. I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, all these guys, most all of these guys have pretty big contracts, so I don't know if other teams are really necessarily going to want to take these on.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's a mess. I feel like they're almost stuck.
Yeah.
They could sell some of their relievers if they ended up going that route, but I just don't really see this team selling just because I don't know what they have to sell. But man, it is a mess. I mean, I will say if things don't turn around, there's definitely going to be some house cleaning going on. I mean, here's the thing. Whenever expectations aren't met, whether that's here in, we're talking baseball or whether it's business or whatever it is, whenever expectations aren't met, that's when people get upset, and that's when things negatively happen, such as people losing their jobs. Yeah. And we can, I think, very easily say that this team hasn't come close to expectations. So I think that's the problem at this point. I don't really see an easy fix, and it'll be really interesting to see what they actually do. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. You make moves. You sign 2 guys, ages put together. It's like 81 to be your 1 and 2 starting pitchers. And it just, like I said before, the dominoes have not fallen for this team at all the way they thought. McNeil has regressed.
Yep.
Senga has been roughed up and can't control the ball pretty often. It's just, I don't know. Cohen has come out and said that in order to move people, he will, take on a bit of the contract to help facilitate that process. He also was quoted as saying, all is not lost yet, but it's getting late. Well, that's about the understatement of the year, man. They have got to go. They got comeback win again last night against the Giants. Yeah. Man, I don't know where we go from here. Like you said, I don't know who they have to sell. Nobody's performing well. Any of the big names, they're not really going anywhere. They're not going to move a Pete Alonso or anything like that.
No.
I think you're just,
they're just stuck. I mean, I don't know what they can do. Their hands are tied. Yeah. I will say this. I do respect Steve Cohen for doing that, and I do respect a high-profile owner like he has become, not just, having the quick whip, I call it, to where it's like, we're not doing right, so I'm just going to get rid of everybody. So I do kind of respect that in a way. But yeah, they're just in a tough spot. They really are in a tough spot.
Yeah. Lindor's not going. I'm just filing through names that are just not performing.
I mean, pick out pretty much anybody on that team, and you can say that.
That's right. Yeah, just close your eyes and point. That whole covering my eyes didn't really work for the podcast audience, so I apologize, guys. Come on over to the YouTube. Hey, let's talk about something a little bit more cheery. This technically happened on Sunday, which is last week in Fantasyland, but it is at the beginning of this week. So I tossed it in here because I love this guy, man. Freddie Freeman had his 2,000 hit on Sunday Night Baseball against the Astros. It was a double. He became the 295th player to reach that milestone. He also had his 300th home run this year, making him the 98th player to have both 2,000 hits and 300 home runs. Any of my Immaculate Grid fans out there, you file this away now because this will be definitely one of the cubes. He's 33 years old. He's hitting .317 with 14 home runs and 49 RBIs. Even stolen 10 basemen. He's even stolen 10 bases, Will. I apologize. Is the Dodgers first baseman the best first baseman in baseball?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I mean, the guy just does it every single year.
Yep.
I mean, I can't say enough about the guy. I mean, I think that what we have here is a rarity. A guy who literally does the same thing over and over and over every year at such a high level on such good teams, and it's amazing. And everybody seems to love the guy who's on his team. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about the guy. I don't think there's any question that he's the best first baseman in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Vlad Jr. is a really good player, but he hasn't taken that next step that everybody has kind of expected him to yet.
Right.
Paul Goldschmidt's right there, but I still would take Freeman over Paul Goldschmidt.
Alonso with the average dip.
Yeah, I mean, Alonso kind of is what he is. I mean, he's obviously, if you told me who's the top power first baseman, I would definitely go Alonso. But you know, when you talk about a guy who's hitting 230 versus a guy who's hitting 320, I mean, I can't really, make a very good argument against that. So, but yeah, Freeman is as consistent as it comes. He plays every single day. Yeah, let's just appreciate what the guy's doing because this is amazing every single year.
He's awesome. I love him, man. I wish, he talked about him signing with the Red Sox for like a brief second in time. And I know at that time we had Bobby Dahlbeck, the Bobby Dahlbeck. But I was really hoping. we'd throw some money at this guy. But yeah, he's just a good human being, and we're happy for all his success. And I bet, if I had to put money down, he's going to get 3,000. I look out. Because he's got some more time to fill up that baseball card. Okay, this is one I'm pretty excited about, Will, as we transition to our last grilling topic here. Thoughts on the All-Star game. We have starters, and I will go through them right now. Let's hit the National League first. Let's change it up. We go American League first.
Let's do it.
Where do we stand? Here we go. At the DH, Red Sox legend, J.D. Martinez. Now he plays for the Dodgers, so that stings a little bit. Here we go. At the catcher position, Sean Murphy. At first base, Freddie Freeman. Just spoke about him. At second base, Ted Williams, reincarnated Luis Ariz. At third base, Nolan Arenado. Shortstop, Orlando Arcia. What a year by that guy. And then check out this outfield. Tell me if this doesn't get you excited. Mookie Betts, Corbin Carroll, and Ronald Acuna Jr. There's the National League side. Let's hit American League real quick. DH, Shohei Ohtani. At the catcher position, Jonah Heim. First base, your main man, Yandy Diaz. And then the entire Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
Coming right at you here. We got Marcus Semien at second, Josh Young
at
third base, and then Corey Seager at shortstop. And then this outfield of Randy Arozarena, Mike Trout, and Aaron Judge. Woo! Those are some solid teams. What are your thoughts? Did we miss anybody? Do you think anybody got snubbed?
That's a tough question. I don't really love the idea of snubs, but I will say a couple of people that I think were well deserving. I think Will Smith, it was a toss-up in the National League at catcher between Will Smith for the Dodgers and Sean Murphy. Obviously, Murphy won out as the starter, but Will Smith, had an unbelievable year. So that was tough because obviously there can only be one starter. But the National League's pretty solid in my mind. For the American League, kind of starting at catcher, I think you could make an argument for a guy like Adley Rutschman.
True.
But Jonah Heim, he's a deserving guy too. I mean, Jonah Heim's been great this year. I've said this a lot. I think Adley Rutschman, sometimes the stats don't tell the full story on what he means to the Orioles. But nevertheless, Heim's very deserving. And as far as, I don't know, this may sound like blasphemy. And I understand that the All-Star's kind of a popularity contest. But Mike Trout, I'm just going to say it, I don't think he deserved to be the starter just based on his production this year. I would have loved to seen a guy like, I know there's a ton of Rangers already in it, but Adolis Garcia's had an awesome year. Sure. And you can throw a few other names out there in the outfield for the American League. But, you know, Mike Trout's an unbelievable player, one of the best to ever do it. But this year, I just don't think he's a starter. But I understand that the fans vote, and that has an impact, and we need to see the, you know, more popular guys in the game in the in the All-Star game, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess 6-1, half a dozen in the other. Adolis Garcia will probably start just because Aaron Judge is not going to play. So it was kind of the same thing. Like Houston was pushing Yordan. They were like, everybody vote for Yordan. And I'm like, what? He's not going to play. Like, do you really want him to play even if he can? I mean, he hasn't played in 6 weeks. Not saying he's not an absolute great baseball player. I guess my question for you, and I really haven't pitched this to you until right now. So right on the spot, Will, here you go. How do you feel about the All-Star voting? You know, you go with the fan vote. There's phases now. I used to vote every year. Now with the phases, I'm kind of out on it, dude. I guess it meant a little bit more when it was deciding the home field advantage for the World Series, but I never liked that, even when I was a kid. What are your thoughts on how they do the All-Star game?
You know what? I think that I don't have a problem with the fan votes. Obviously, it's a flawed system, as we were just kind of saying, because you're going to get some guys in there every year that are, you know, super popular, but not necessarily having the best year at their respective position. You know, but at the same time, you know, if fans have a vested interest and their votes are the ones that count as far as putting players in the game, I can't really argue with that. And so I don't have a problem with it. I just think that it's a little bit of a flawed system if we're trying to truly get the 9 best players at their respective position each year in the game. You're never going to get that truly, I don't think, with a fan vote. But you know what? If it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't really think it's broke.
Yeah. You know, Canada went in, man, because I don't know if you saw the finalists where they had 2 people at every position. It was a Blue Jay on the American League side as either the second or first pick. And so there was a point where I was like, it might be just like a Blue Jays away game right now, you know?
Yeah. And that was the only one other guy that I was going to say too was Bo Bichette. You could make an argument for him at short between him and Seager, but really whichever one was the starter, I couldn't really make a strong argument against them. Both of them have been awesome.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it might be Texas's year. You see this pretty much every year in the All-Star game. If there's a team that just comes out of the gates hot and they get a lot of fans. I mean, they got that new stadium down there in Texas. There's a lot of baseball interest in the state of Texas. I mean, especially with the Astros, too. They got 2 good baseball teams down there for sure. I hope those stadiums are air-conditioned, you know. It's a little toasty.
Better be.
It's a little toasty. Okay, speaking of toasty, studs and duds. Let's move on. We made it to the starting pitching position. This one was fun because, I mean, we've talked about it back and forth. We text quite a bit. I don't know if anybody's picking up on that. But fantasy-wise, starting pitching, it's been kind of hit or miss this year. So to be able to dig in and, like, really see who's been locking it down has been a lot of fun. Let's talk a couple studs here. I got 3 names. You probably heard of them. Let's talk about Clayton Kershaw. On our list, we put him as the 37th best starting pitcher. I don't know how we did that, dude, because here's the deal. We only had a list of 40 names. What were we thinking? He's currently playing up to the 4th best SP in the game. His stats, 10-4, 2.55 ERA, a 1.05 WHIP, and 105 Ks. The big thing is he's stayed healthy. Knock on wood, he continues to do that. He's a legend, man. What more can you say?
Yeah, I second all that. I mean, here's the thing though. If you go back and kind of look at some of those names on the list at the beginning of the season, I mean, we thought, and I think most experts out there thought that pitching was this is kind of the golden generation of arms, and it was, if you remember, we were having a hard time narrowing it down to 40 names,
Correct.
just to kind of keep a close to an hour-long episode for that. And so, the pitching, if we reverse back to the preseason, man, everybody thought pitching was super deep, and not that it's not deep, it just hasn't played out, especially with the new rules, as consistent with a lot of guys as we thought.
Right.
Plus, there's been a few just major misses that we'll talk about here in just a second. But what can I say about Kershaw? I mean, the guy's first ballot Hall of Famer, doesn't throw as hard as he used to, but just knows how to pitch, knows how to locate, doesn't make mistakes. And, I mean, if he stays healthy, he's still as good as there is, man. The Dodgers have kind of stayed afloat in that NL West, largely in part to a guy like Clayton Kershaw. So yeah, kudos to him. He's still doing his thing, and let's hope that he can stay healthy.
Oh, no doubt. Another great year for this guy. From one left-handed ace to another, your guy, Shane McClanahan, we had him on our list at number 9. He's currently the 5th-rated fantasy starting pitcher. How about some statistics? 11-1, a 2.23 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, and 100 Ks round out this guy's awesome first half. Dealing with a little back injury right now, but Lord willing, he'll be A-OK. How do you feel about my main man, Shane?
God,
your main man, Shane. He's awesome.
He's just such a good player. I mean, obviously I watch a lot of Rays baseball, and I mean, Shane McClanahan is everything that the Rays, I think, hoped that they would get out of Blake Snell. Like, I think that you can make the comparison to Blake Snell before Snell kind of got inconsistent for whatever reason. Just from the left side, a guy that can hit triple digits with a fastball, has unbelievably good off-speed stuff, changeup and slider. He can neutralize right-handed batters. He can neutralize lefties, obviously. Yeah, what can you say, man? I mean, the Rays have been the best team so far this year, and he's been their best pitcher easily. Yep. So shout out to him. He was honestly way too low at 9. The guy's easily a top 5 guy if he's healthy.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I got some names. We'll get there on the duds, but I mean, it's wild how this year has unfolded. He is so good. I think next year, I mean, and we've talked about it. Both, these top 2 guys, Kershaw and McClanahan, when they're healthy, they look unhittable. I mean, they're really, really, really good. Okay, last guy. Wasn't the top guy, that I could have chosen, but I just want to give this guy some love because what a year he's having. Nathan Eovaldi, Nate Doggy Dog, as me and my Red Sox fans like to call him. We didn't have him ranked on our list of 40. No way, Jose. Didn't see this coming at all. Had a pretty so-so year in his last year in Boston. He's currently pitching to the 12th best pitcher, a stat line of 9-3, 2.82 ERA, a WHIP right at 1, and 101 strikeouts. It's like when DeGrom went down, he transferred his superpowers to this man. What do you see? Yeah,
he's had a great, obviously, first half of the year. I mean, I think if you're a Rangers fan, you just gotta hope that he stays healthy. Because he has thrown a lot of innings so far. He has some injury history in his past. So, I think the Rangers, especially if they stretch it out a little bit in this second half, do they start kind of, not necessarily skipping starts, but maybe push him back a few times to, knock down a little bit of the innings because, obviously the Rangers they're gunning for much more than just winning the AL West. They're wanting to make a deep run in October. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Bruce Bochy there. But shout out to the whole Rangers staff. It feels like they've unlocked kind of a new layer in this guy because he was always an effective pitcher, but you've never thought of him being as like upper echelon. At least I haven't. So, so shout out to Evaldi. I do expect just a little bit of regression towards the second half. But here's the thing: if he stays healthy, the Rangers have themselves a guy that they can feel good about and going out in game 1 or 2 and being competitive against anybody.
Yep, he's awesome. He's awesome. He's a lot of fun to watch when he's on. He just jams that fastball right at you, and he's obviously got the breaking stuff to play off of it. Yeah, I'm very happy for his success. Wish it would have happened a little bit north of where he's playing currently, but hey, you can't have your cake and eat it too all the time, guys. Speaking of not being able to have your cake and eat it too, these guys, if you drafted, we're moving duds. We're going Dudley right now. If you drafted any of these guys, like Will was saying beforehand, the fantasy landscape, a lot of leagues I was in, it was 12 hitters in the first round. But as far as the batch of pitchers that went, these were one of 5, or rather 3 of the first 5 names off the board. So let's get rolling. How about the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner, Sandy Alcantara? We ranked him 4th on our list. He's currently pitching to the 277th best starting pitcher. 3-6 with a 4.82 ERA, a 1.25 WHIP, 83 Ks. Made my Red Sox look bad the other night, I will say that. We've talked about him at length and how his underlying stuff looks pretty much the same. How are you feeling about this guy? Is he a buy low opportunity? What are we doing here?
I mean, I do think he's a legitimate buy low opportunity. I mean, I think I've said this kind of all along. I think the only thing that's kind of at least makes me caution when I'm at least thinking about drafting a guy like Sandy Alcantara as high as he goes, and at least this preseason, was kind of the lack of that top end strikeouts like you see with some of your McClanahans, your Spencer Striders, guys like that. Alcantara's never really done that. He usually lives just under about a K per 9 innings. But obviously his fastball can hit triple digits. He can throw that sinker in there that's hard to square up. He's got good off speed with the changeup. So, but yeah, to answer your question, I think he's definitely a buy low candidate. Guys who have him have to be frustrated, because they were having to pick this guy in probably the second or third round, at the latest to get him. So, yeah, it's been tough. But here's the thing. I'll say this. Shout out to the Marlins, because your best player by far going into this year was Sandy Alcantara. And they are doing what they're doing without their best player performing, which is really impressive. And
scary if he figures it out.
Yeah, I do expect him to have some positive regression or positive, whatever you should say, bounce back potential in the second half. So yeah, if you're able to, get him for a decent value at this point, I think it would certainly be a really good move for you.
Yep. Let's see here. From one former Cy Young winner to another, Corbin Burns in Milwaukee, second place Milwaukee Brewers, who, again, don't exist because they got swept by the Oakland Athletics. So what are we even talking about? We had him second on our list. He's currently pitching to the 198th best starting pitcher. 5-5 with a 4.10 ERA, a 1.19 WHIP, and 89 Ks. It's a little bit more of the first half of last season when I watched him pitch. Like, the stuff doesn't necessarily look bad. It's just, I don't know if it's pitch selection. I guess the breaking stuff isn't where it typically is. He's been getting hit a little bit harder there. Anything out of the ordinary with Corbin?
Yeah, you kind of hit on it. I mean, the biggest thing that I see is I feel like the cutter is still a really good pitch for him, and that's kind of what he's been known for, is that hard cutter. But I think the problem is he's prone to the big inning. When he tries to mix in the curveball, I think the curveball sometimes hangs, so he's been prone to the home run. He's walking more guys than he did back in his Cy Young year. It's just kind of a bunch of small things that add up to a big thing. And I think the biggest thing for me this year is the strikeouts haven't really been there like they have been. And that's
Right.
to me, that's the most troubling part of it. Because if he was still striking out guys at a crazy high clip, I
Hmm.
could live with a little bit higher ERA like he has.
Hmm.
But with the strikeouts not quite being to that level,
Hmm.
that's where I'm running into some issues with him. So, if you're still hanging on to him, which you should be,
Yeah.
um, you've got to hope that the strikeouts start coming back. If those start coming back, you can live with a little bit of the higher ERAs.
Yep. Top two guys, I think we can both agree. Maybe go out and see what you can get. This last guy, we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about him. Our
Do we have
sweet,
to?
we do. I mean, we don't, but I would like to. Here we go. Alek Manoah, our sweet Alek Manoah. We had him on our list at number 19. Okay, and I felt pretty solid about that. Actually, thought that was a little low, just because he was so good last year. He is currently pitching to the 316th best starting pitcher. He's currently pitching to people the average age 19. Let's talk major league stats, and then we'll dive into I don't know. We'll dive into I don't know after that. Okay. How about 1-7 with a 6.36 ERA, a 1.9 WHIP. I mean, 48 Ks and 42 walks. I've never seen anything like it. He had his first Florida Complex start the other night. And if you haven't seen it, I mean, hide your kids. And I don't know, man. 11 earned runs, 10 hits in 2.2 innings pitched. He gave up 2 home runs. The average age of the batters he was facing was 18.8. So that's like high schoolers, freshmen in college. Buy low is what I do. No, Will,
Oh.
just kidding. Well, I don't know, man. Should we just put this puppy to bed for this year?
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? I mean, that's for all the good things we were saying about guys like Kershaw and McClanahan. I mean, the total 180 is happening, unfortunately, with Manoah. I mean, this is a guy that obviously with the breakout season he had a year ago, we thought this was going to be one of the more dominant arms in the game for the foreseeable future, and it is spiraled completely out of control
Yeah.
into what I would honestly call a very sad case right now. I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, you cannot spin any sort of positive, not
I'm
only
gonna
on
try.
not only the season that he's had at the major league level, but whatever that was a few days ago that got sent out via the media. But I don't know, man. At this point, I just think about the Blue Jays organization. They have got to put all of their resources right now into recovering what's left right now of this guy. They can't afford for a guy that was as good as he was last year
Hmm.
to spiral into whatever's going on right now. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
Dude.
for this year, you don't even need to worry about fantasy wise Alek Manoah. You just gotta hope that hopefully next year, but in the years after that he's viable again. And I think that's right now with the state of where his game is, I think
Mhm.
that's the best that we can shoot for.
Okay. So you've been watching baseball longer than I have. Does anybody come to mind? I was racking my mind all week trying to think since I see how the game went. Like, has there ever been a case where I will try and spin it in a positive way, but before I do that, can you think of a soul who's
I mean, the
had?
only guys that come to mind at all, and what's weird about it is the guys that I think of just totally lost like their control. I
Mhm.
think of Mark Wohlers back in the day with the Braves.
Okay.
And I also think of a guy like Rick Ankiel, who kind of like got the, I want to call it almost like the yips.
Yeah, that's
He
what he called him.
couldn't find the strike zone, and so they had to move him to full-time outfielder back in the day.
I remember this.
But with Manoah, I mean, yes, he lost some of his control and some of his command, but it wasn't like he was just like throwing him to the backstop, you know?
Correct.
It was just like he was getting pounded every single, outing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only other guy that comes to mind, but this was injury related, was Francisco Liriano for the Twins, because Francisco Liriano, his first few starts, if you go back and look him up for the Twins, you would have thought that he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day.
Mm-hmm.
And he got hurt. He hurt his elbow, and he was never that just insanely dominant guy.
Yeah.
So
he was Johan Santana before Johan Santana came.
well, they were both on the same team. Johan Santana was their ace. They brought up Liriano, and Liriano looked like a second coming of him. And he got hurt and was never the same again, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, those are the only guys that even remotely come to mind on a case like this.
Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to spin it in a positive way, and then we're not going to talk about him, unless he gets called back up somehow. So here goes. We might talk about him if he has another rough start. I don't know.
Yeah.
Here, we might just do a little checking in with Alec. I don't know. Maybe we can get him on here, and we can hear it from him. That would be awesome.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll send some electronic mail, Will. Okay, positive spin time. We don't know what he was working on. And if the other team found out what he was trying to work on, like let's just say right side of the plate or up in the zone, and they can sit on that, maybe this is what was happening. But this is exactly why they wanted him in the Florida Complex League. Like, it is tough to get statistics from our side. So I'm not counting this guy out. I don't know, man. I'm just a slave to the moment of last year and how, like, when he's locked in, how much fun he is to watch. And, he's got the attitude and he is, he was an ace. And I just cannot believe how he's fallen off like this. We do not mean to rain on his parade. I think, right, Will, we're both rooting on him to come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lord willing, here's what it'll be. He'll be a pretty good late round flyer to take in fantasy next year. So
Yeah.
We'll close the book for right now on Alek Manoah. The Blue Jays could sure use the Alek Manoah 2022, but we'll see if he's in there. I bet he is. Moving on, Will, to your favorite segment of the whole thing. It's perfect for 4th of July, which is on Tuesday. Listen, before we dive in, real quick, and I guess I could say this for the end. I'm just going to keep it brief. Everybody be safe on 4th of July, okay? Fireworks are dangerous. Please be responsible. And let's go on. Speaking of being responsible, Will, here are some results from our Week 11. I don't know how I feel. So before we dive in, Will was up 6-1. He's had just a remarkable run. He selected Josh Naylor as his pick to click, the Roman Candle pick to click, and Josh Naylor did not disappoint. How about 8 for 22? That's a 364 average, 4 doubles, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, and a 1.073 OPS. What in the world? I'm going to need Will to start picking some players on my fantasy team. That's what I need. I picked Leody Taveras, young incoming star from the Texas Rangers, who's got a lot of love this episode. 6 for 25, a 240 average, 2 doubles, 1 home run, and a 709 OPS. Not much of an argument here. I feel like they're getting closer, but unless Will's player gets sick again or gets hurt, I think I might be in trouble. Will is now up 7-1. The onslaught is on. I'm going to do math, and we're going to have a magic number for him. That's what this is going to be. This is going to be Will's magic number segment. But you know what? Pirates never quit, and we're not giving up on this, okay? So we're going to turn it around. It is officially 7-1. And Will, who's going to get you win number 8?
Yeah, going for number 8. So I'm going, we've gone heavy on the Rangers this episode, so I'm going to stick with that theme. I'm going to go with Adolis Garcia. Hey, I think he's motivated. I should have been an all-star starter. Should have been voted in by the fans. I'm on the best team in the AL West, and I didn't get voted in as their cleanup hitter. And so going with a motivated Adolis Garcia this week. I think he's going to hit a couple of tanks to left center field. And, going for win number 8.
You know what he is? The Rangers just went and traded for an Aroldis. So now Adolis is like, uh-oh. They're trying to get somebody with my namesake. So now he's extra motivated.
That's right.
Even though those are completely different names. Dude, that's a great pick. He's had 2 great seasons, but he hasn't. I don't feel like he's put it all together like he has this year. And man, dude is a stud. It's kind of like the first time I saw Randy Arozarena.
Yep.
And you see the pipes, and you're like, my goodness, this dude is an athlete. Same thing with Garcia. Good for Texas, man. Because I feel like they're going to be solid for a few years to come.
I agree.
I'm going to stick with a team in the state of Texas, but I'm going Astros. We were talking about this guy before we hopped on here, Kyle Tucker. A so-so year, and I'm really looking for him to keep going. Not terrible, but 283 average, 11 home runs, 49 RBIs, 40 runs scored, 14 stolen bases. So I feel like the Houston Astros are right on the edge of clicking, man. They've had a lot of stuff not really fall in their favor. I mean, from Altuve getting hurt in the World Baseball Classic, Jordan hasn't played baseball in 4.5-5 weeks at this point. Starting pitching injuries galore with Luis Garcia and my main man. Why do I keep going to names, Will?
Urquidy.
Urquidy. Thank you, sir. The thing is, this is a team that just knows how to win, and I'm not betting against them. Like we were talking about, our third co-host, Christian Javier, has been roughed up the last couple of starts. I'm very, very excited for him to come on and talk to us about it. One day. They're going to go. They're in a series with Texas. They got 3 more pops at the Apple, and they won last night. So this is a big weekend. We are recording on Saturday morning, and so they'll play a couple more times this weekend. Be on the lookout for this Houston team, and I think it's going to be led by their 26-year-old superstar outfielder Kyle Tucker. Let's see him turn it around, and let's see me get win number 2. 7-2 has a good ring to it. I really like that. Will, anything else before we head on out of here, brother man?
It's been good. It's been a fun episode. We have hit on a lot of different things. Something that I'm looking forward to, though, over the next few weeks. Obviously, the Rangers kind of took the first step as far as making a move. What do some of these other teams do to kind of counter and strengthen their teams as well? Because, I think that it's become, in this day and age, it's hard sometimes to wait till the deadline day to make a bunch of moves. And so it's going to be interesting to see if some teams kind of jump the gun a little bit, go ahead and be super aggressive, get some guys before we get to that deadline, and kind of just start seeing where everything goes from there. So that's something that I will be watching for very closely.
Yeah, that's such a great point you just made with the deal they made for Chapman. My thing is, it's like I don't feel like I thought it was kind of going to be a little bit more of a bidding war, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm looking right now, I don't see Cabrera on any like prospect list. I mean, I'm looking at 1 through 20.
With a guy that young,
his name is absent from this list. So
with a guy like that young, I'm assuming it was an international signing. So sometimes with guys like that, if you're the Royals, maybe your scouting department's like, hey, this guy, I know he's super young, super raw, but he's got this tool that projects to this in a few years.
Right.
And so obviously the Royals aren't winning this year or probably next year. So they're looking for guys who in 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road can potentially be impact players. And for some reason they had a pretty keen eye on maybe this guy. So we'll see. And Reagan's, I will say, which is the other piece that you mentioned that they got, he's a lefty. So we'll see if he projects more as a starter or reliever. But, there has to be something that they liked in that 17-year-old for sure to go ahead and jump on that deal.
Yeah, they have him in AAA. He has played up some for the Rangers. 2-3 record with a 5.92 ERA.
Yeah.
1.4 WHIP. But like you say, there's got to be something they're interested in.
Yeah.
Yep, very fun once these dominoes start falling. I'm excited to see how the Shohei stuff pans out, if anything happens right now, or we have to wait until the off season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, keep it locked in here because we're going to give you everything you need to know, okay? If you're a casual baseball fan, just like my friend Will from work. His name is also Will. Will, I mean, that is right
name.
there. It is a solid name, and that's how that's how you know we were going to get along. Yeah, the same name as Will. All my friends' names are Will. Okay. Hey, we really appreciate you guys for listening. Please be safe on 4th of July. Fireworks are awesome, but just be smart, okay? We really appreciate you listening. At BTH_Cody and at Will Sism. Check out the YouTube channel. It is just called Bringing the Heat. So pretty easy to find. And if you leave a like and a comment there, that would be great. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 37 of Bringing the Heat.